of the 3x3 refereeing. We're lucky again to have Vanessa Devlin. For those of you who weren't on the first webinar, Vanessa has been recently appointed to the Olympic Games as 3x3 referee, which is very exciting. We will have the presentation available to everybody. Throughout the presentation, we may have some issues with the videos. So at the end of the presentation, you will all be receiving it. So we'll just keep moving through. We will be have the opportunity to answer questions. So at the bottom of your screen is the chat tab. If you can send through your questions throughout the presentation, and at the end, we will be able to have Vanessa answer those. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Annie Lafleur. I'm the Development Manager for FIBA in the Oceania region. I'm very lucky to have a number of you from all over the world participating in these webinars. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Vanessa.
Hi, thanks Annie. Hope you've all had a great week. Thank you again for your time today. So today is going to be the second module, which will be focusing on foul selection and physicality. So we'll be having a lot more video in today's session. It's probably going to be easier to watch situations rather than me explain it. So we've got a lot to actually get through. So I'll start sharing my screen now. Just bear with me. Okay. Annie, can you just confirm that you can see the slide?
Foul selection module 2.
Yep, perfect. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so being a 3-on-3 referee, we need to run the show, but by doing this, we need to make sure we control the game. We need to keep in mind that teams will always look for an advantage, either legal or illegal, and as referees, we need to make sure we're aware of this and referee accordingly. We need to expect the unexpected. And this could mean something like a game that we have one foul and nothing has happened, and then all of a sudden an elbow is thrown, so something has happened, and we've got to make sure we are on top of that and aware of it and referee it. Or even could be a game where a team is up by 10 points, and then all of a sudden in the last minute we've got a tie game and it's a bit of an upset. So they're the situations that we need to expect the unexpected. In 3-on-3, we need to remember anything can happen. And because anything can happen, we need to make sure that we are active and we are ready to decide and make that decision. So game control comes down to making good decisions. Calling the first foul and not the reaction. We can't afford to miss that first contact and come out with the second. This is where players get frustrated because we've missed that first one and we've always seen the second. Consistency is from the start to the end of the game. This is one of the frustrations that I hear from players. We need to make sure that that one foul we call for one team, the same foul happens, we've got to make sure we call it for the other. We also need to make sure that what we call from the start of the game, we call towards the end of the game. For example, we don't want to come out with a 50-50 3-second call in the dying minutes of the game if we haven't even called one for the start of the game. The timing of the calls in the last minute and the overtime. What is the correct decision for the game? As referees, the worst thing for us is coming off a game and everyone's saying that the game was decided by the referees. It's not a good feeling. We want players to decide the outcome. But still, as referees, we need to referee the game and make sure this happens. So it doesn't mean we put away our whistles. We still need to referee. And if it means calling a foul because a player has made a legal contact to warrant a foul, then that's what we have to do. Because you've got to keep in mind that if we don't call that foul on that defensive player, we've now put that offensive player at a disadvantage. The defensive player has made that decision to make that foul. So we still need to do our job and referee this. We need to keep aware of what the foul count is. We can't afford to call a soft foul that has an impact, that does not have an impact, and sends the team to a line for 2 shots. It's a big penalty. So we really need to be conscious of what we are calling. We've got to be mindful of technical fouls by players. We need to read what the teams are doing. So some teams will purposely commit a foul through the 1 to 6 barrier. So it means giving him a check ball instead of giving up an easy layup. Let's be aware of this and see how the players are playing. Also, in the last moments of the game, if the team is going to foul to stop the clock, we've got to make sure if they're going to do that, we call it straight away. Body language. One thing that frustrates me is hearing from other referees speak about 3x3 who don't know the game, is when I hear, well, referees just stand there. They don't have to do anything. They're completely wrong. We need to be very agile and make sure we move to get into the right positions. Making sure that that foot isn't on that end line because we've just sort of stayed still and we're stuck in the mud. We need to be quick in moving in these positions as the game is so quick. We need to have the appearance that we want to be there, and we are there to do a job. Positive communication is always going to help us. It's going to make our job so much easier. Letting the teams know what their foul count is a big favour in us. Teams will appreciate this. Some won't even listen to us, but others will take on board. If we let them know, hey, this is your 5th team foul, the next one's 6, they'll be like, oh, yep, all good. They can get caught up in the game. So just that positive communication, just letting them know something simple as that will be in our favour. Preventative officiating is a big one. The more we can talk and get players out of a foul instead of blowing our whistle is going to be big. We want them to score. So, for example, if we get 2 big bodies in the post and they're going, they're banging on, this is what we want. Great, let's talk to them. But as soon as that hold comes out, we need to tell them, watch that hold. They listen, let go, fantastic, we can let them keep going. But as soon as they don't listen and they continue with that hold, this is where we've got to blow our whistle. The more we can prevent without stopping the game, the better. We need to be open and honest. We're human. Referees make mistakes. We have to remember that. If a player asks you about a situation, be honest. You know what? I may have got that one wrong. You'll get a lot more respect from players if you admit when you were wrong. I'm not saying you've got to admit you're wrong all the time because then you're going to be in a bit of trouble. But if it's, at one time, you know what? You may be right on that one. You will get a hell of a lot more respect. And feel for the game. Understanding the importance of a foul. Does the foul send them to the 7 to 9 penalties? Will this foul win them the game? Has the game gotten heated and you can feel that something is going to happen, like an elbow or a retaliation for something that has happened earlier? These are the key things that we need to be aware of. So a lot of people will ask you, what's the difference between 5-on-5 and 3-on-3? It's the physicality. Yes, it's an area. We call fouls that put players and teams at a disadvantage. A small bump going towards the basket, but the shot goes in, that's fine. We can let that one go. We try and avoid this as much as possible. However, that bump that makes a shot and they miss and the play goes to the floor, these are the ones that we definitely need to call. We want to award good physicality, but not brutality. Players are expecting that physicality. So if we come out and then all of a sudden it's a soft foul, a small bump, players are going to get frustrated because they have learned to play with that physicality. Like I said, for example, those 2 guys banging in the post, great. But when we need to step in because they overstepped that mark, we've got to make sure we're there and we referee it. All right, so we'll start going into the videos now. There's actually quite a few videos with a lot of situations. So what I'll do is I'll talk through the videos and look, people are not going to get it straight away. It is a learning curve of what you call when you go out on court, okay? Just remember that. You're not going to go out and you're not going to get it straight away. It is a learning curve. So contact on the shooter during a layup. There's a few things we've got to keep in mind. Who has initiated that contact? We're trying to avoid any soft and ones. We need to referee the defense to see what the defense is doing right and wrong. And we want to reward verticality. So the first clip that we're going to go through is a no call on a layup. If you watch the orange player, he goes towards a basket and the white player has made contact on his arm. It's minimal contact and the shot has gone in. This is a foul that we don't need to call. All right, another no call on a layup. Defense has jumped vertically, and yes, there is minimal body contact. This is another one. The shot has missed, but that's fine, okay? This is one that we need to let go, okay? This is legal play. Sorry, that's the same one. Okay, so we've got another one here. As you can see, defense has actually pushed the offensive player off his line, but the shot's gone in. If the shot misses, maybe we can think about calling the foul. It depends how the game situation has gone throughout the game. This is stuff that we need to think about. But in this instant, yes, there is contact, and yes, this is a foul in, say, 5-on-5, but on 3x3, this is not a foul. The shot's gone in. There is no disadvantage we can play on. Okay, so this one, as you can see, there's actually quite a bit of contact on the offensive arm. But once again, that shot's gone in. Let's let that go. If the shot's missed, we can come in with a late whistle, okay, because he's got a good chunk of his arm. But the shot's gone in. Let's let that go. Let's keep on going. Let's play the game. Protection on the outside shooter is refereed differently though, okay? We will call everything on an outside shooter, okay? We want to protect the shooters, okay? This is where some cheap, some players can come cheaply underneath and take away their legs, some cheap shots on the arms. This is why when it comes to outside shooters, okay, we're going to call absolutely everything, okay? We want to eliminate as much as possible any contact on the outside shooters. We used to get quite a few years ago, it wasn't refereed probably as strongly, and we're getting a lot of people getting injuries. This is why we've made a real focus on calling these outside plays. So the first one that we're going to go through is a landing space foul. As you can see, it is going to be minimal contact, but he's made contact on that outside shooter. This is a shooter protection foul, and the player will go to the line for 2 shots. Another landing space foul we've got, and this is where injury has occurred. So as you can see, he comes underneath, he lands on his foot, and now we've got an injury. And I know being a player, I've done an ankle injury and it doesn't tickle. Okay, this is why we are rewarding outside shooters. Okay, and players, they'll come used to this and they'll play more clever D. Okay. Another outside shooter one, we've got a foul on the arm here. It's minimal contact. It doesn't look like much, but once again, we want to reward those outside shooters. The player's clipped him on the elbow and the ball's fallen short. Another landing space foul. Okay, player's gone for a shot up in the air. Once again, has made that body contact, has put the player to the ground. Even if the player didn't go to the ground, we still need to reward those shooters. Okay, so post-play, this is where it starts to get a bit more physical and a bit more body on body. Okay, we want to make sure we call the first illegal contact and not the reaction. A lot of times we can get into a habit where we're not switched on, we're not concentrating, something has happened, and then all of a sudden we see the reaction and we call the reaction. We need to make sure we see that first illegal contact because that's putting the player at a disadvantage. We need to see who has initiated the first contact, keeping in mind offense can cause as much contact as defense. We need to also control the post play before it escalates. As soon as it escalates, this is where we're going to have problems, okay? Some players don't forget contact, okay? So remember that. So if we miss something in the first instance, all of a sudden come another play, they're going to remember that, and this is where the game gets heated. So the first clip on the post-up I have is a situation where a player is posting up, there is a hold, and instead of letting go, the player continues to hold, okay? Because there's that continuation motion, we need to make sure that we call that foul. They've called it actually quite late in the play. We'd be happy to even call it earlier. As soon as the hold doesn't let go, continues to hold, we need to call that foul. This is actually an offensive foul on the play. So as you can see, the white player extends his elbow and then wraps his arm around the guy's head. Okay, we can't allow this. All right, this is an offensive foul by the white player. And we've got to make sure we get that early. If we let that go, this is where escalation happens, okay? Game's going to get out of control. We're going to have inconsistencies. Holding on the cutters and the rebounders, once again, and I know I repeat myself, but it's with every foul call. Who has created that first contact, okay? Is a reaction, is a retaliation? This is what we've got to be mindful of. What impact has that hold had? Is it a hold, they let go, no one's gone to ground, no one's disadvantaged, can we let that one go? The more we use preventative officiating to talk them out of holding, the better. If we don't talk and they continue to hold, then it's going to be our issue. So the first one I've got is a holding and grabbing on the rebound. Okay, as you can see, the white player has his arms around the player and instead of letting go, continues to hold and then removes the black team player to the ground. Okay, this is an easy one. We call them, we clean the game up. This one is a holding and grabbing on the cut. As you can see, white player has tried to go towards the basket. He won't let go. We need to call that. As you can see, that player has gone for a disadvantage. If we call that earlier in the play, okay, we also don't need to cancel that basket. All right, another situation Guy goes to cut, the hold is there, he continues the hold. Player can't get through to legally cut towards a basket. We need to call that. As referees, you call that, it cleans up the game. Players are aware. It's as you can see, it's 9 minutes 11 into the game. We call that now, players will adjust. Another situation, player has come from behind, prevents him from going to the ball. Yes, black team player ends up with the ball, but that is a cleared hold. He's come from over his shoulder and he's held him back. Once again, we're early in the game. This is the time to get the players to adjust. We don't adjust to them, the players adjust to us. Hold after a screen, he is screened, he is held, he is held, he is held. We eventually call the foul, but this needs to be called a lot earlier. Now, this is where it has to be called. He's held to start off with, the player gets a step, but then he's continued to hold. We don't call this foul until he's actually shooting. We need to call that a hell of a lot sooner. Because when you think about it, if that offensive player got frustrated, this is where retaliation comes into it. He could have thrown an elbow because we haven't blown our whistle. Okay? Call it early. See how the play develops. Okay? Is there a hold? Does he let go? Where is the impact? These are the things that we need to keep an eye on. So screening is something that we've definitely tightened up on, probably in the last year. I've definitely taken notice of this happening. So, you know, in the past, there was a lot of screens that were let go because we were trying to allow that physicality. So yeah, probably in the last year, it's definitely been cleaned up. The screens that we're definitely looking at calling is when the offensive player extends their arms, irrespectively of pushing or not, and we're very tight on this. When the offensive player moves and does not establish a legal guarding decision, and when the offensive player puts his palms on the defensive player. This is something definitely this season we've been hot on. Even if there is no push, okay, or a disadvantage, we are calling this foul. As soon as two palms go onto a player, we are calling a foul. We are calling an illegal screen an offensive foul. This is, especially with the two palms, this is something we've been educating players as well in making sure that they understand this is what the rule is, this is what we're calling, and get them to adjust. So this is a offensive foul with a player just extending their arms. As you can see, the screen gets set, he extends his arms, okay, and pushes off. Okay, this is an offensive foul. Yes, there is not much impact made, but it still needs to be called. Okay, this is what we're trying to educate players. This moving screen is pretty straightforward. Player never establishes a legal guarding, legal screening position, and just clearly blocks out that offensive player from going towards the ball. This one's an easy get, just clearly blocks him out, as you can see. And once again, 9:48 to the game, it's early. Let's get it early. Get bad habits out. We have another one with extending the arms. He has set the screen, and as you can see, this one he has two palms onto the player. Defense has not really come at a disadvantage, but as soon as those two hands go on, this is an automatic foul, no matter of the impact. This is what we're trying to educate players once again. Okay, talk to them. A lot of teams know now that two hands on, two palms on is an automatic foul. Another one again, two hands on, regardless of whether the offensive player pushes or not, an offensive foul is to be called. So unsportsmanlike fouls is a foul with excessive, hard or dangerous contact. That hasn't changed. A disqualifying foul is something that we can actually enforce if the unsportsmanlike situation is excessive. So just because it's a more physical game doesn't mean that we still can't apply the principles of disqualifying and unsportsmanlike fouls. So the first clip is just pretty straightforward unsportsmanlike foul for holding. As you can see, the first initial hold is fine, but he continued to grab both arms around the player and throwing. Okay, this is an unsportsmanlike foul. We call this as a normal foul. Players think that this is okay. This is not okay. As you can see, the score is also 20-16. So he's probably wanting to, get the game over and done with. I don't know the situation, okay? But regardless of what that score is, that is an unsportsmanlike foul. Disqualifying foul. This one is, when I first saw it, is actually very hard to see. But when you get the different angles, you can actually see what happens. At first, it doesn't look like much. But when you have a look at it, you can actually see the green team player actually punching the player in the stomach. This is a DQ. This is not basketball. This is not 3x3. All right. We need to get him out of the game. If we allow this, other players are going to play like it. So last week we spoke briefly regarding technical fouls and the type of technical fouls we can have. So we can have technical fouls for game delay and behaviour. So probably the only other main one is flopping. So a player exaggerating or faking to receive a foul. This can be either offensive or defensive. We have to keep in mind though, there are no warnings in 3x3 for flopping, okay? It's an automatic technical foul. So this clip is probably a very common clip that if you're in the 3x3 world, a lot of people have seen. This is just easy, there's no great, this is just black and white. Player is shot, absolutely no contact, okay, and the player's gone to the ground. This is an automatic tech foul. I've actually refereed this player quite a few times, and probably in the last 3 months, he's actually got out of that habit, which is really good. He lands, stays on his feet. So as you can see, if we call these things, players do learn. So the last clip I want to show you is of a overtime situation. So this is actually probably a very good clip it has a lot in it, but it also shows the referees not deciding the game. It's letting the players decide the game. There are still fouls called, and there are still situations, but the referees have actually refereed this overtime really well. So it goes for about 3 minutes. We need to really make sure that in the final minute and the overtime, we let the players decide the game. We don't want to come out with a soft foul that sends someone to the line and wins them the game, because that's going to reflect on us. All right, so this is a semi-final overtime between China and Australia. This was at the World Cup this year. Sorry, I can't get the sound to go down. Hang on. Actually, yes, I can. Okay, so clearly Australia probably started the ball at the start of the game, so China started with it. As you can see, some teams will go for that first 2 points for a prayer. Hopefully they can win it straight away, where others will take a drive straight away. So this is one of the overtimes that actually goes for quite a bit. So like I said last week, some overtimes will last 2 seconds, some will last 2 minutes. Minimal contact on the shot, we can let that go. Once again, Australia tried to shoot from outside to win it from the outside. She dribbles out. Yes, there was contact, but it's minimal. She doesn't lose control of the ball. We can let that go. Now, this is a perfect situation, letting the teams play. As you can see, the green team player, Australia player, has initiated all contact. She's screaming for that foul, but there is no foul in this. Post play is good. It's body on body. And this is where this is a good call. Australia player clearly took the arms out of the China player. If we don't make that call, this is putting China to a disadvantage. All right, that Australia player chose to make that action, so we need to reward China. So we're still letting the players decide this. So already we've played like maybe a minute and a half and we've only got one score. Same again, Australia finally gets a score, probably gets minimal contact. We can let it go. Great situation here with the jump ball. Okay, China has the ball. Australia then jump on it. It goes out of hands, but there is no other control. So this is where ball goes to the defense. Again, minimal contact. Offense is trying to get that foul. Again, like you got to praise the referees for this. They have only blown their whistle when they've had to. They have let the players decide this game. And I think this is a perfect situation to showing what we call and what we don't call. So thank you all. This one did go for a little bit longer because of the videos, but I hope showing the videos instead of, you know, just me talking has actually sort of cleared up a lot. Just keep in mind though, you're not going to go out in court and expect to be perfect. Okay, just remember, we are referees, we are human, and we do make mistakes. Okay, it's what you do with those mistakes. Do you learn from them, or do you just sort of, yeah, it happens? Okay, learn from your mistakes, and this is how we become better referees. So if we've got any questions, Annie, that would be a good way.
Yeah, look, there was a bit of trouble with my audio at the start. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we do have a question. If there is a 3-point shot in Area 1, which official has primary coverage? In the video earlier, lead had a call for landing space in Area 1. Is this dual coverage?
Okay, so this is probably like a whole different area of topic as well when it comes to mechanics. So the mechanic is actually split up into 4 areas instead of the 6th. So if the ball is in area 1, it also depends where the players are as well. Okay, so we never want 2 eyes on a set of players. I can't remember the situation that the exact call was happening, but what I can say is that if it's an outside shot in area 1 and there is only 2 players there, this is where trail should be refereeing this, because the other 4 players are probably off ball, which probably needs leads eyes. But yeah, mechanics is definitely a whole another module altogether, because as on 5-on-5 we got the 6 split areas. On 3x3 we've only got the 4.
Great. So questions are coming through, which is exactly what we need. On a check ball, is there a space limit when offense comes to set a ball screen?
Yes, I was expecting this question again. I meant to comment it. So no, there's not. So when it comes to a screen on a check ball situation, as long as we have the screening principles with time and distance, that is fine. So if we check the ball and they want to set a screen, that's fine, but we still need those time and distance and screen principles applied.
Great. So 2 team fouls. We always, so for unsportsmanlike foul, we always add 2 team fouls on unsportsmanlike foul. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so yeah, so no matter if it's their first or second or 2 players on the same team, it's always 2 team fouls that we put up on the bench.
Okay, so I've had a request if you can do a session on mechanics. So I guess we can talk offline on that.
Yep, we'll discuss that one.
Yeah. Any more questions, everyone? I can see that you're all still online. So is there anything else that you would like to know about foul selection and physicality on today's webinar? No? Okay, awesome.